Mina had just seen her husband lie to her with no hesitance, and she was disappointed, to say the least. Why would Sebastian or Seb lie to her? It didn't make sense to her because all her mind could come up with were negative situations that just ended up in her getting hurt. She was not ready to accept that there was a possibility that one of them could be true, and that she could end up actually getting hurt by the man she loved. To give a little backstory to this emotion, Mina felt she had been at the coffee shop downtown trying her new pumpkin spice latte when Seb entered through the door. At first, Mina didn't notice that it might have been her husband because he usually never went to the coffee shop. It had always been her favorite, but Seb had never understood why she would like it so much. According to him, this cafe was not that different from the ones much closer to her house and work. But he had never understood that it was more about the personnel and the emotional connection than how the coffee tasted. This was the cafe that had been her support system during her college years. She had come here whenever she was stressed over an assignment or something that had happened in her life that had not been according to plan. Mina liked to organize everything in her life. It made her feel at peace to know that everything had a particular order, and that if she followed a specific guideline for everything, it would work out for her. This coffee shop was a place where she allowed herself to be as messy and disorganized as she wanted to, with no one to stop or judge her for changing her personality so quickly. Even after she married Sebastian, this coffee shop had remained her safe haven, an escape from reality. She tried to get him to feel the same comfort, but it hadn't worked. Internally, she was happy that it had not worked. She liked going here, knowing there would be no one she knew who could try and disturb her peace. When she had seen Seb walk in this morning, it had been a shock for that exact reason. He only went here if he had no other option on the way. And why would he be going this way when his work and their house were on the opposite side of town? It didn't make sense to Mina, and she almost decided to get up and go to him when she paused, wanting to prank Seb by saying she was at his office. As soon as she called him, he picked up on the first ring, and Mina noticed a slight smile on his lips as he read her name. "Hey, what's up?" His voice came in, making butterflies fly around in her stomach. It had been 2 years since they married, and her stomach still filled around him. "Where are you?" she asked him. But his expression turned into one of panic, and he looked around before stuttering and replying, "Me? I'm at work, of course. Where else would I be?" A nervous chuckle heard through the phone. "Right, I just wanted to see how you were, that's all," she replied. But she was so confused. He had lied to her about being at work while buying coffee. Why couldn't he just tell her where he was? It's not like he was alone with someone, so why? Even though all the negative assumptions kept telling her something was wrong, she couldn't help but be confused. Seb was never one to lie, so seeing him lie straight to her face or voice shocked her. Sebastian Brew and Mina Flay met during their last year of college, both in different departments. They had matched on a dating app and realized they both belonged to the same college after going on a few dates. They hadn't seen each other because Mina was in the psychology department, while Sebastian was a biology major. These departments were close by, but still very different. Mina was a party girl, while Seb liked to stay in and have a money night. There had been instances where their arguments would consist of what they wanted to do for date night, but soon they realized that they would have to compromise and learn to adapt to each other's interests if they tried to make their relationship work. They had concluded that date nights would be something that both of them enjoyed while letting each other enjoy their lives their own way. Many days Mina would be out clubbing with her friends while Seb would stay in, complete his assignments, and get some reading or gaming done. He was a brilliant student with a 4.0 GPA and was on scholarship for basketball, so he was the perfect all-round kid that most parents dreamt of. Most of the time, he also helped Mina with her assignments that had to do with biology. All of their friends always cooed when they saw him because they were so in love with each other. It was exhaustingly cute, and also because they were incredibly attractive. Sebastian was a tall, 5'11" guy with a lean body, perfect for when Mina wanted to cuddle, with dirty blonde hair and green eyes, face constantly turned into a smirk. Most of the time when you would see him, he would be in gray sweatpants and oversized shirts, a cup of coffee always in his hand. Mina, on the other hand, was the definition of extra. She was a brunette with dark brown eyes that were always twinkling with mischief, and a face shaped into a grin that was so contagious that you would be smiling with her every time. They were very different from each other, that they had people questioning how they ended up together. That was their secret. They were so different from each other that it felt like they kept each other on a pedestal, making sure they didn't sway the other way too much. They kept each other in check. Mina reminded Sebastian that it was okay to have a little fun, while he kept Mina in check, ensuring she didn't get too distracted from the other priorities in her life. They had such a healthy relationship that they met their parents within a few months of dating, and they loved each other so much in such a short time that it was astonishing. Soon as their college ended, they moved into an apartment in the same city, settling on a lovely 2-bedroom apartment with a living room connected to the kitchen and a separate laundry room. This had been more than enough for both of them since they weren't financially stable at that point, freshly out of college. However, even though both of them had high-paying jobs now, they still lived in the same apartment, feeling like it was a waste of money to move when this apartment could accommodate them perfectly. They had married when they were both around 23, 24, fresh out of college. It was too late to get married for many people, and they hadn't gotten everyone's complete support. Even though the parents supported their kids, most family members, like their aunts, uncles, and grandparents, hadn't been too keen on the situation. The only reason they hadn't said anything to their faces after the first few tries were due to Seb's older brother, Justin. Justin was 2 years older than Seb, but they were both so close it felt like they were the same age. They had always been protective of each other, but recently it had gotten even more since both of the boys had moved out, and they were unsettled about the fact that they would not be able to take care of each other. When the relatives started coming out and commenting on the fact that Seb was getting married at such a young age, Justin had been the one to set all of them straight, asking them to keep their opinions to themselves because Seb knew what the right thing was, and he can make his own decisions. Of course, Justin, being Justin, made sure to express his concerns in a very calm and polite manner to ensure that he didn't start a fight with anyone in his family. Back at the cafe, Mina had been sitting at her regular table, head between her hands, trying to think this through. For most people, Mina's reaction might have been very extreme, and many might have thought that she was overreacting. But what no one outside of her close friends and Seb knew was that Mina had been in a very toxic relationship where she had been mentally abused for quite a while. Being in the relationship, she didn't feel like there was something wrong with the guy, but as she started to meet new people and interact with a different crowd than her ex-boyfriend's friends, she realized how badly she was being treated. That's where her trust issues stemmed from, and it took her a long time to overcome the fear of having someone she loved betray her this way. Her ex, Connor, was her boyfriend during her first year of college and all through high school. They had started dating during her junior year and had been a healthy couple for most of their relationship. Still, in the last year they had been together, Connor turned into a manipulative person. That was when they had both left for college. Connor and Mina had planned to go to college together. Fortunately, in Mina's case, Connor had gotten the grades that he needed to get accepted into the university that Mina was going into. The colleges were almost 4 hours apart, and Connor decided that it was too far away, so Mina should just stay here and go to college with him. Even though the college that Mina had been accepted to had been her dream college for years. When she heard that, she was shocked because she didn't want to disappoint Connor, but didn't want to give away her dream just so she could stay with him. The day that she had gotten her acceptance letter and Connor had gotten her the rejection letter, they had a massive fight. And it ended up in Connor saying things that he shouldn't have said, not just to his girlfriend, but to anyone that he came across. Curses had been thrown from everywhere, and it was like the only thing that Connor saw was that she was betraying him by going to her dream college, which was not the case at all. She had promised Connor to keep in touch and to text him all the time, along with the promise to give him Mina's schedule, just in case he needed it for anything. She had even promised to come and visit on the weekend just so Connor could see her, because Connor had told her that it was too much of a hassle for him to go to her. In the end, the differences were resolved because Mina had started crying really bad and Connor did not know what to do. So he tried to calm her down by saying that she was reacting too much to the situation, that he needed her to keep everything in check so you could calm down. He had also told her that if she didn't stop her act, he would get angry again, worsening the situation. Young Mina had taken his word for it and started to keep her cries in control, ensuring that if she did cry, it would be quiet enough that Connor wouldn't be disturbed. They continued dating for a year after that, and even though Mina was starting to realize how much of a bad person he was, she was so manipulated and wrapped around his finger that she couldn't let him go, no matter how hard she tried. It had taken the support of the friend she had made in college and her mom, whom she had ranted to when things were going hard between Connor and her, to finally break things apart and leave Connor behind. It had been a disaster telling him that she wanted to break up. He had not taken the news well and started shouting at her over the phone about how much of a mistake she was making and how she couldn't do that to him. She thanked everyone and anyone above that. Connor was not in front of her face right now because at this point, she wasn't sure that he would stop himself before hurting her. She had to break up because the situation had gotten so bad that she cried herself to sleep almost every night. It had gotten to the point where if she asked Connor what he was doing and where he was, he would just shut her up and tell her to mind her own business because she was enjoying her dream college. At the same time, he was stuck in this college that was 4 hours away from her. Even though getting away from Connor had been helpful for her, she didn't think she wanted to get away at that moment. Maybe subconsciously, she had been thinking that. But all she remembers is the feeling of dread when she realized that they were not going to be together anymore. She had also learned that the feeling of dread was because she knew how Connor would react to the news. And she wasn't ready to deal with all of that yet. With so much manipulation, toxicity, and lies that were going on in her last relationship, it had taken her a really long time to open up to Sebastian. The first relationship had made her develop severe trust issues and intense anxiety, and if Sebastian had not been patient with her, they would probably not have been together. During the first few months of the relationship, Mina was distraught and paranoid about doing something wrong. She thought that if she did something wrong, she would get punished by Sebastian, ending up just like it had been with Connor. During the first time she had to hang out with him, she started to like him, and the anxious feeling that she would lose him if she ever did anything remotely incorrect terrified her. So, to see Seb do the same thing when he lied to her about something, not knowing that she could see him, affected her in more ways than she could explain. She didn't know if she should talk to him about it or whether she really was overreacting. He was probably going to work after this and just didn't feel the need to tell her where he was then. With so many thoughts clouding her mind, she felt she needed someone to go through them. So she went to the one person she knew could help her this time, her best friend, Piper. Piper and Mina had been friends since middle school. Piper had just shifted into the house next to Mina just before the school year started. Mina had always been friendly, and it was no different for Piper. The day Piper had shifted and Mina learned that someone her age had moved into the house next to her, she had all but jumped out of bed to prepare some cookies to take to their place. She took the cookies to their home, and as soon as she met Piper, hands in sweater paws and a shy smile on her face as she introduced herself, Mina vowed to protect her from everyone and anything evil in this world. She even offered to walk with Piper to the first day of school, and on that short 5-minute walk they had talked so much. Piper was shocked that she even had so much she could talk to Mina about. They had been close since that day, and you'd find them together most of the time, always having pool parties or sleepovers at each other's houses. Since then, they had been inseparable, and whenever one of them would go through something, the other would be at their house instantly. Although this time, Piper suggested that she should stay home and talk to Sebastian about what was going on. So Mina took her advice and went home after work to find Seb sitting on the couch, watching a football match. Taking a deep breath, she tried to tell him everything about what had happened and what she had seen, how she knew he had lied to her, and how she did not appreciate it. Still looking at him, just hanging out on the couch leisurely, her anger bubbled, and she rushed to her room before she could do or say something she would regret. This was one thing about Mina. She liked to talk about things when you weren't blinded by her anger. She believed that it caused the situation to worsen, and most of the outcomes could have been prevented if they had communicated when they were both level-headed. As soon as she gave Seb the silent treatment and ignored his love-filled greeting towards her, his eyes shot up in concern. No matter how tired she was, Mina always gave him a forehead kiss before heading up to her room. This was very unusual, and Seb wasn't comfortable with the idea that he had done something wrong that might have caused the love of his life to be so upset with him. He followed her into the bedroom, but she rushed into the shower and locked the door behind her. Well, that went great, Sebastian had thought. He waited on the bed for Mina to come out of the bathroom so they could talk about what was bothering her. She was taking longer than usual to come out of the shower, and Sebastian had to go to the washroom really bad as well, so he decided to go and come back really quick. He rushed to the other room, but he was a minute late in coming back, because a minute before he had come into the room, Mina had come out of the shower to see an empty space. Seeing Seb nowhere around, her thoughts got the best of her, and she convinced herself that he did not care about her enough to follow her into the room or wait for her because she was clearly upset. She turned towards her closet and grabbed her nightgown before changing and getting into bed, trying or pretending to fall asleep. She had almost drifted to dreamland when she heard the door opening and Sebastian entering the room. She acted like she was already asleep, but she knew her husband would figure it out. After all, she used to do it after every fight. "I know you're up, Mina. Talk to me, please. What happened?" he asked, and she swore she could hear the concern in his voice. His voice was so soft and sweet that she almost shed tears. "I know you lied to me," she told him, and she saw him go stiff, realizing he had been caught. "I was in the coffee shop when I called you. Why would you lie to me, Seb?" she asked, her voice shaking due to the tears constantly running down her face, cheeks rosy and eyes glistening. Sebastian sighed before sitting on the bed, grabbing her hand before speaking. "I was there to get coffee, Mina, that's it. Why would you assume the worst just from that simple lie?" He told her before telling her not to worry anymore and that she should rest since she was probably tired from everything that had happened. He didn't hear her response and went to his side of the bed before closing the lamps and drifting off to sleep. That hadn't been a clear response, and Mina's brain was still running at a high pace, coming up with every possible scenario that could happen, even if there was a 1% chance of it happening. With her mind still uneasy, she got out of bed as quietly as possible so she wouldn't wake Sebastian up and went downstairs to the living room and called Piper. She knew Piper would still be up, mainly in case Mina needed to talk to her about what had happened, and because she would be too engrossed in her shows. Her suspicions were proven correct when Piper picked up the call on the first ring and immediately bombarded Mina with questions. When she managed to calm Piper down, she answered every single question as best she could, which ended up in her explaining everything that had happened and also telling Piper what she had analyzed of the situations, along with the scenarios that her mind made up. Piper had listened to her rant for the entire hour before she spoke after asking Mina if there was something else she wanted to say. Piper told her that he probably just wanted to get coffee from there and that he might have been too engrossed in something to realize what he was doing. Listening to her rational reasoning, Mina realized that maybe she was getting too ahead of the situation and that she should ask Seb to explain it more or let it be. It's not like she saw him with another woman. He had only been getting coffee. Deciding to apologize the following day, she thanked Piper for listening to her and helping her through this before hanging up the call and heading to bed. The following day, Mina had planned that she would get up and prepare Sebastian his favorite breakfast before he left for a week, but her eyes opened to Sebastian planting a kiss on her forehead before heading out the door, dressed and bag in his hand. She got up quickly to say goodbye to him before he left, but by the time she got up, put her slippers on, and headed to the living room, Sebastian was already driving out of the driveway and was on his way to work. She decided to change her plans and prepare his favorite dinner instead. He liked many different things, so she quickly did her morning routine and got to work. Just as she was wearing her apron, her phone rang from her room. Rushing to get it, she noticed it was Sebastian's number. Confused, she picked up the phone, only to receive news that made her blood go cold and tears glide down her cheeks. "Hey, is this Sebastian Brew's wife or girlfriend? I saw a heart next to your name in his emergency contacts." When she responded positively, the man continued, "I just wanted to inform you that your husband was unfortunately been in a car crash. We found him unconscious and is in pretty bad state. His car was almost run over by a truck." Her heart started beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. "Please let him be okay," was all she could think at the moment. Asking the man for the hospital's name, she quickly took her apron off and got her keys before rushing out the door. She was sure she drove over the speed limit, but she could care less. She needed to know if Sebastian was okay or not. She didn't know what she should do if he wasn't. She regretted not getting up to say goodbye or make him breakfast. If she could rewind time, she'd get up early to make breakfast for him, to make sure he knows that she loved him even if the previous day had been stressful for them as a couple. When she reached the hospital, she went to reception and asked for Sebastian Brew. "I'm his wife. Please tell me where he is." She was told that he was currently in the operating theater and had to get urgent surgery, which would take about 5 hours. Calling Piper on her way to the operating theater with Justin and their parents, she reached there only to find that his surgery had just started. She was there for about 30 minutes before Piper came rushing in, followed by her and Seb's parents and then Justin. He was in a suit, removing his tie as he rushed towards them, so he had probably run straight from work. Perks of being a CEO, she guessed. "What happened? Is he all right?" The questions directed at her, one after another. Before she could answer, she started sobbing, making all of them calm down and comfort her while also trying to contain themselves. Piper noticed that Sebastian had eyes glistening with unshed tears and went to comfort him after seeing that all the parents were comforting Mina and Justin was about to cry, standing alone in the corner. After everyone had calmed down and gathered together by the chairs Mina was sitting on, Mina started telling them what had happened this morning, how she had gotten here after receiving a call from a random stranger, and found out that Seb had been in a car accident, that the surgery would take around 5 hours. Hearing all this, everyone started hoping everything would be okay and Sebastian would come out of this healthy and happy. It had been a little over 5 hours when a doctor came out of the operating theater, asking for the family of Sebastian Brew. The doctor came near them when they stood up and explained what had happened. Sebastian had suffered through broken ribs, a fractured right leg, and glass shards piercing through his body, barely missing the crucial organs. The doctor told them that he would have to stay in the hospital for about 2 weeks before he could go home, so the doctor left. His first step away, and all of them slid back into the chairs, crying tears of relief that Seb was okay. Piper had been holding Mina the whole time, rubbing her back and trying to comfort her. But even in a situation like this, Mina couldn't help but thinking about Piper. She knew Piper had the fattest crush on Justin, and even then, she was sticking with Mina the whole time. Mina couldn't be more thankful to have such a wonderful best friend. So she nudged Piper with her elbow and gestured towards Justin sitting on the chair opposite them, telling her to go to him. Piper looked hesitant to leave Mina, shaking her head and holding Mina's hurt, but Mina shot her one pointed glare, and Piper was out of her seat, making her way towards Justin. When Sebastian got shifted to the ICU, he was still unconscious, but they were told that he'd take an hour at most to wake up. During that time, the rest had left to get something to eat at the restaurant nearby, but Mina had refused to leave Sebastian's side, staying by his bed on the chair provided by the hospital and keeping her hand closely wrapped around her husband's. She fell asleep holding his hand in hers, but woke up to someone winching. She immediately looked up to find that Sebastian had woken up and was trying to grab the water on the table beside him, but he was wrapped in bandages. He shouldn't be moving, so she quickly got up and handed him the water, helping him drink it slowly before sitting it back on the table. She noticed that no one had come back yet and went back to sit on the chair, grabbing his hand and kissing it. Tears had started falling on her face before Sebastian reached out, his hand gently wiping away her tears. "Why are you crying, love? I'm okay, see?" He gestured to himself, his voice raspy from just waking up. "I'm so sorry, Sebastian. I'm so sorry. I was foolish about the whole coffee shop incident. I never should have assumed the worst, and I got mad at you and stressed you out. I felt so guilty, and I was going to wake up and apologize and make you breakfast before you left for work, but I slept through my alarm. You had already left, Anne." She had not managed to finish her tear-filled rant before Sebastian shut her up by placing a finger on her lips. "Hey, look at me. It's okay. I'm not mad at you, all right? You had every right to be mad at me, especially because of your experience with Connor. I should be the one apologizing instead. I lied to you because I went there to get coffee since your favorite jewelry shop is right in front of it. Our anniversary is in 2 days, and I wanted to get you this pendant I had seen you look at on your phone constantly, so I went there to get it," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face before continuing. "I thought you'd figured out I was there for something like that since our anniversary was close, and I hate the coffee from that shop. You know that, love. Come on, their vanilla bean frappe tastes like vanilla ice cream," he told her, chuckling a little before looking into her eyes. "I'm sorry, I should have told you." Hearing that made Mina cry even more. Why had she ever doubted Sebastian? She knew how much he loved her. He could never do something like this. Oh God, she felt so guilty. She wanted to apologize again and tell him that he shouldn't be sorry for something like this. Still, before she could respond, all the others barged into the room, talking amongst themselves before noticing that Sebastian was awake. He was immediately surrounded, and chaos ensued in the room before Mina had to step up and tell everyone not to overwhelm Seb, since he was still in a critical condition. When things were calmer, they all gathered on the chairs and sofa in the room and started talking about random things. At one point, Mina had noticed that Justin had his arm around Piper's chair, Piper leaning towards him. With a quick smirk and a wink directed towards Piper, Mina quickly turned her attention to Sebastian and continued talking to him about what she planned to make for his breakfast that morning. Soon enough, it was time for everyone to leave to go home. Mina convinced them that all of them did not need to stay the night and that she would inform them if something happened. When they all went home, Sebastian moved a little in bed and insisted that Mina joined him. At first, Mina had refused, scared that she would hurt him somehow, and with how clumsy she was known to be, she didn't want to risk it. Still, Sebastian had always been pretty good at persuading her into doing something, especially when he looked at her with those big doe eyes, acting cute intentionally. Mina quickly gave in and spent a good few hours sitting in bed as carefully as possible. The bed was spacious, so she didn't have to worry about hurting Sebastian by accidentally elbowing him in the ribs. That night they had talked about everything that had happened in complete detail. Mina had explained what she had been feeling and what thoughts were running through her mind. Hearing all of that made Sebastian feel guiltier than before, knowing that he was the reason the love of his life had been through so much pain and anxiety. When he started apologizing, Mina told him that she would hear none of it, that he was doing all of this for her and had no reason to apologize. He still insisted that he should apologize because he would have to spend their anniversary in the hospital because of him. That was when Mina realized what this had all been about. Sebastian had felt like the accident was his fault the entire time. How could she have missed this? She knew Sebastian was the kind of person who took the blame for everything and wanted everything to be perfect for the other person without considering his own health and boundaries. She should have known that even if Seb had not gone to such lengths to plan a surprise for her anniversary, he would still feel guilty, and they would spend it in the hospital. Mina had taken it upon herself to help Sebastian realize that none of this was his fault, and that he could not have prevented it, no matter how hard he tried. If it had to happen, it would, and there was no stopping it. She also quickly shut down the idea in his cute little head that Mina would be disappointed for spending her anniversary here in the hospital. It was ridiculous. Truth be told, Mina did not mind paying it anywhere as long as Sebastian was with her. He was all she needed in her life, and she wasn't going to let him feel guilty for being in a car crash over which he had no control, not on her watch. Their family had been coming over to the hospital every hour for the entire day, Justin even making sure he dropped off breakfast before he went to work and coming back to spend time with Seb during his lunch break. Seeing so many people care for him genuinely brought tears to his eyes. He was so lucky to have such amazing people in his life, especially his wife, who had been taking care of him day and night, only taking a break and going to sleep when Sebastian would get mad at her. The next day when she woke up, she had forgotten what day it was. Everything had been so chaotic the past 2 days that she hadn't even thought it was her anniversary. She had woken up to balloons beside the sofa she had been sleeping on and Sebastian on the bed, a wide grin painted on his face. "Happy anniversary, Mina." He beamed before Mina even had a chance to completely wake up from her sleep. Wait, how had the balloons gotten here? Sebastian must have noticed her confused expression because he chuckled before telling her that Justin had dropped it off with Piper before work. They seem pretty close now, Sebastian had told her, smirking, his eyes shining with mischief. Before handing her the pendant, he had barely given her time to brush her teeth and change into better non-wrinkly clothes. Justin? She guessed, and it had been him. He had helped Sebastian prepare this whole day, promising to drop by the fancy lunch and a cake during lunch, and leaving immediately after to give the couple some time to themselves today. Justin had also texted both of them, saying no one would disturb them today by visiting and that they could have the whole day to themselves. The entire day had been perfect, and Mina could not have asked for more. They had a fantastic breakfast with a red velvet cake they had cut together. The pendant that Sebastian had gotten Mina was a mini Melistic gold chained pendant with a heart-shaped gem in the center, colored in green and blue, with small gold petals surrounding the jewel, making it look even more magnificent than it did before. She also noticed their initials engraved on the back of the pendant, with an infinity sign joining them both. She almost cried when she got this back, thanking him more than she could count before reassuring him that she also had a gift prepared for both of them at home, promising to give it to him after he was discharged from the hospital. He had been jumping in his bed from the anticipation, and it just made Mina hope it would be worth it. The entire day and all the gestures had reminded her of their first anniversary. They had both taken a trip to Korea, a place on their bucket list for a long time. It had been perfect, to say the least. They had done everything on their bucket list, from trying out different activities to the food and taking part in their culture. Everything was so fascinating. They had stayed there for an entire week. On their anniversary day, Sebastian took Mina to see the cherry blossoms for the first time in both of their lives. The air, the view, everything was beautiful, and Mina still remembered the immense feeling of love that had taken over her when she looked at Sebastian. It felt like she was in an alternate reality, everything so vividly pretty. She wanted time to stop at that exact moment because, for Mina, she could live in that moment for eternity. Coming back to reality, she realized that the feeling of love had been growing since that day to a point where Mina wasn't sure that it had even been possible to feel so much love for a person. Looking at Sebastian, lying in the hospital bed, covered in bandages, but still taking the time to try to make this day memorable for her. How could she deserve someone like this in her life? She had probably saved the world by getting a husband like Sebastian Brew in her past life. 2 weeks had passed by in a blur. Mina could not take any more time off of work, so she checked in with Sebastian in the morning, calling him during her time off, and returned to the hospital as soon as she got off work. Their apartment was probably covered in dust at this point because no one had been there for the entirety of 2 weeks. Mina refusing to leave Sebastian's side and rest at her house when her husband was in the hospital. The day before Sebastian was supposed to come home, Mina had cleaned the whole house spotless, not even a speck of dust found anywhere, before she decided to celebrate the apartment with a welcome home banner and a cake, along with dishes that Sebastian loved. She had no problem admitting that she was an amazing cook, and Sebastian was obsessed with her cooking. For him, Mina's cooking came above everyone else's. He had gotten home to quite a surprise, Justin bringing him home while Piper and Mina waited in the living room. Piper and Justin had started dating a few days ago, but they had bonded so quickly that everyone around them thought they had been dating for longer. They were already on pretty good terms due to Mina, but Justin constantly bringing her over with him had caused them to be closer than ever. If they were that close, it was impossible for Piper and Sebastian to not get close. All four were comfortable with each other's presence and loved each other platonically and romantically. Soon after they had left, Mina cleaned up while Sebastian rested on the couch next to her. He nudged her with his crutches before smiling and telling her about the surprise she promised to give him. "Don't tell me you forgot already," he had complained in his famous whiny voice. But how could Mina forget? She had been waiting for this moment for 2 weeks, and it was finally time to give it to him. She entered the closet, bringing out one single envelope that she handed to Sebastian. "What's this?" he asked before ripping it open without waiting for Mina's response. He stared at the surprise in his hand before looking up at Mina and looking back down, his face opening and closing like a fish. "Oh my God, did you actually manage to get us tickets to Vegas?" Mina remembered their date a couple of months ago when they had set up a blanket on their balcony and decided to have a small picnic there for the whole night since they were both too lazy to go outside. They had prepared sandwiches while gathering all the snacks and drinks they could find in their house, which was a lot considering that both of them survived on unhealthy junk food. During their date, they had been staring at the stars and talking about their plans for the future, joking around with each other before Sebastian turned around and looked at her straight in her eyes, held her hands, and talked about how he imagined every part of their future with her by his side. That was when he mentioned that even his bucket list trip to Vegas involved her going with him, jokingly adding that it was supposed to be a solo trip, but she could tag along. He had meant it as a joke, said it casually in passing, but Mina had remembered, and she was determined to help him complete his bucket list. You mentioned you wanted it to be a solo trip, so I know I've got 2 tickets, but you can also choose to go alone if you want. I made sure that the tickets would be refundable, she told him, expecting him to agree with her because she knew how important alone time was for Sebastian. But what she wasn't expecting was for him to make her sit on his lap, grab her head, and making her look into his eyes before telling her that there was nothing more in this world that he wanted than to complete his bucket list with Mina by his side the whole time. The day of the trip arrived soon enough, and both of them were panicking. I mean, it's the experience that matters more, right? The people you're surrounded with, in this case, the love of your life, and you're about to go somewhere that's always been on your bucket list. So they packed lightly and headed towards the airport. They stopped at Mina's favorite coffee shop since they both were running low on sleep, and Sebastian was willing to give this place another shot, which was unexpected. However, he did not like it, but at least he was open to trying it. So that counts, I guess. Things you do for love. They arrived at the airport with matching luggage tags and coordinated outfits so that it looked like they were matching, which they are, but in their own ways, so it doesn't restrict their individuality. The little things like these add up so much. It's so cheesy, but it's distinguishingly adorable. They're so sweet and soft with each other. It'd give you cavities. While waiting for the boarding to start, Mina dozed off and fell asleep on Sebastian's shoulder. He wanted to take a picture of her so bad, but he didn't want to wake her up with his movements. Sebastian looked at her with adoration. He felt so full of love. How can one be this cute while sleeping? He thought to himself as he wore a big smile on his face. Soon, it was finally time for boarding, and the adrenaline was pumping through Sebastian's body. Mina, whose heart felt so full, looking at her husband being so excited and happy and being able to experience this with him. When they got onto the plane, Mina chose the window seat because sky views give her life, from spending hours and hours watching the clouds move and be in different shapes to waking up early, especially to watch the sunrise and admire nature's beauty. Coming to night skies, to say she was obsessed was an understatement. Nobody could do it better than spotting airplanes stargazing, talking about the moon endlessly, and capturing the most alluring pictures of it ever, Mina in this case. Sebastian, however, wasn't too fond of heights. He was okay with them, but tended to avoid the window seats as they heightened his anxiety. Looking at Sebastian being uneasy, Mina reached out to hold his hand and squeeze his hand 3 times, to which he looked at her and gave her a smile where his eyes disappeared and turned into moon crinkles. He breathed a sigh of relief and started browsing the entertainment center display on the screen to distract himself, even though he didn't need to anymore because Mina was beside him. He felt assured that he'd be okay. He chose to watch a sci-fi movie that's been trending recently. Still, he hasn't gotten time to watch it with all that's been going on, so today was the time, while his wife listened to her chill lo-fi playlist as she journaled her feelings away. So cool how a person can express themselves through journaling by artistic and literal means as they write it out. Evening flights are really the best because you get to witness the beautiful transition of warm tones like golden and orange turn to pink, purple, and blue on the most enormous canvas ever. Being so high up in the sky above the clouds makes the experience so much better. It feels so dreamy. As the day transitioned into night, the aura of the aircraft seems to change a little bit as it gradually turns to soft purple, and the vibe is immaculate. Soon enough, the meals are served, starting with smoked salmon and bagel chips with a dip, and the mains consisting of baked potatoes and New York strip served with fresh greens. The couple seems to enjoy their meal. Sebastian cuts up Mina's steak into bite-sized pieces as a form of expressing his love in subtle ways. They end it with a chocolate mousse, something this couple thrives off of, ultimate serotonin the moment it enters their mouth. They haven't even reached their destination yet, and they're having the best time on the flight. What else do you need? This tells a lot about why your company is so important, especially with a life partner. They're supposed to be best friends.